I sat at the dinner table, surrounded by laughter that didn't feel real. My parents were smiling. My brother Ryan was bragging. And everyone was talking about how successful he'd become. Ryan just bought a new house in the city. My mother said proudly, "He's doing so well. Maybe one day you'll get there too, Daniel." Her words felt like a knife disguised as kindness. I smiled politely and nodded. They had no idea that I was the one who had quietly built everything Ryan was showing off about. He leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink. "Little bro," he said loudly, "you should come work for me. I could teach you how to make real money." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I stayed silent, just listening. I had learned that silence can be more powerful than any argument. Ryan had always been a golden child. Perfect grades, expensive suits, fake confidence. I was the one they called the dreamer, the broke one, the disappointment. They never asked how I was doing. They never cared to know. But that night, as I watched my brother brag about his house, I couldn't help but smile, because I already knew something they didn't. The very house Ryan was showing off, the one my parents were so proud of, didn't belong to him at all. It belonged to me. And soon, everyone at that table was going to find out the truth, in a way they'd never forget. Growing up, my family never felt like a team. It felt like a competition I never signed up for. From the moment we were kids, my brother Ryan was the star. He got straight A's, won trophies, and always had our parents' attention. Every time he succeeded, there were celebrations. Every time I tried, there was silence. If Ryan scored 95%, Mom baked him a cake. If I scored 90%, she'd say, "You should have tried harder like your brother." It was always Ryan this, Ryan that. Dad believed Ryan was destined for greatness. "He's got leadership in his blood," he'd say proudly. "You, Daniel, you're more of a thinker. But thinkers don't make money." Those words stuck with me for years. As we grew older, the gap between us widened. Ryan went to business school, funded by our parents. I couldn't afford that, so I studied computer science online and took part-time jobs to survive. They called me stubborn, said I was wasting my time. But deep down, I had a dream, to build something of my own, something that no one could take away from me. Every family dinner was the same story. Ryan showing off his new car, my parents clapping, and me sitting quietly in the corner. I learned to smile even when it hurt. Ryan became the perfect son, while I became the forgotten one. But what they didn't realize was that being underestimated became my biggest strength. The more they ignored me, the more I worked in silence. I started reading, learning, coding, building ideas while they laughed behind my back. They thought I was broke and lost. But in reality, I was building a future that would one day make them question everything they believed about me and about success. Leaving home was both the hardest and the best decision I ever made. I still remember the night I packed my small bag, walked out quietly, and looked back at the house one last time. It wasn't anger that pushed me out. It was exhaustion. I was tired of being compared, tired of never being enough. I moved into a tiny apartment in the city. The walls were thin, the lights flickered, and the rent took almost everything I earned from part-time jobs. But for the first time in my life, I felt free. No judgments, no expectations, just me and my dreams. Days were long and nights were longer. I worked as a delivery boy during the day and learned programming and business online at night. Many times, I fell asleep on my keyboard, but every small progress felt like a step closer to something big. Then one day, I came up with an idea, a software that could help small businesses protect their data and automate their systems at a low cost. I didn't have money, connections, or support, but I had determination. I built the first version of my company from my old laptop. I named it Decor Technologies, after my name, Daniel. At first, no one believed in it. I was rejected by investors, ignored by clients, and laughed at by people who thought I was wasting my time. But I refused to stop. I learned from every failure, improved my product, and kept going. After 2 long years, one company finally gave me a chance, and that one deal changed everything. That single contract opened doors I never imagined. Clients started lining up, investors called, and money finally began to flow. While my family thought I was broke and lost, I was quietly building an empire, one they would soon discover in the most unexpected way. While I was building my company from scratch, my brother Ryan was busy building his image. He loved attention, expensive suits, flashy cars, and perfect pictures for social media. Every post screamed success. Every caption read, "Hard work pays off." To the world, Ryan was a winner. To our parents, he was a hero. To me, he was just a man living a lie. I found out through mutual friends that Ryan had started a consulting business, but no one really knew what it did. He spent more time showing off than actually working. When I heard he had bought a new luxury house, I wasn't surprised, but I knew he couldn't afford it. My parents, of course, were over the moon. "Your brother is so responsible," my mom said proudly over the phone. "He's even planning to buy us a vacation home." I just smiled and said, "That's great, Mom." What she didn't know was that the house Ryan bought, the one he bragged about, was actually under a corporate investment company owned by me. When my startup grew, I invested in multiple assets through a holding firm, real estate, tech shares, and small businesses. I had no idea one of those investments would end up being the same property my brother purchased on loan. I never told anyone. Why ruin the show when the actor was performing so well? Ryan began hosting family gatherings in that house, giving tours like a proud king. "This is my dream home," he'd say, smiling wide. Everyone clapped. I just stood there quietly, drinking my coffee, watching the man who mocked me for being broke live inside a home I technically owned. Sometimes, I wondered how long he could keep up the act. His wife looked tired. His bills were piling up, and when his accountant, Mr. Cooper, started asking questions, I knew Ryan's perfect world was about to crack. But I didn't need to do anything. The truth has a strange way of revealing itself, even when you stay silent. And soon, my silence would be the loudest thing Ryan had ever heard. It was a bright Sunday afternoon when my mother called. "Daniel," she said excitedly, "we're having a small family dinner at Ryan's new house this weekend. Everyone's coming, even Uncle Peter and Aunt May. You should be there." I hesitated for a second, but agreed. Deep down, I knew this dinner wasn't just a family reunion. It was another stage for Ryan to show off his perfect life. Still, I went, not out of jealousy, but curiosity. When I arrived, the place looked like a magazine photo: marble floors, designer furniture, and a brand new car parked outside. Ryan stood at the door, grinning. "Well, look who finally showed up," he said, giving me a fake hug. I was starting to think success scared you. I just smiled. "Nice house," I said calmly. He smirked. "Thanks. Hard work, you know." Inside, everyone was gathered around a table, eating, laughing, and praising Ryan. Mom couldn't stop smiling. "Your brother worked so hard for all this," she said, patting his shoulder. "You should learn from him." I nodded silently, sipping my drink. Meanwhile, Ryan's accountant, Mr. Cooper, had joined the dinner too. He was sitting quietly in the corner, scrolling through his tablet. His face looked concerned. After dinner, Ryan stood up and raised a glass. "To success," he said proudly, "to family, and to never giving up on your dreams." Everyone cheered. Then Mr. Cooper cleared his throat and said, "Actually, Ryan, before we toast, there's something important we need to discuss. It's about the ownership of this property." The room fell silent. Ryan's smile froze. My heart started beating faster. Not from fear, but from the quiet satisfaction of knowing what was coming next. The truth was about to walk into the room. The silence in the room was thick, the kind that makes your heartbeat sound louder than words. Ryan looked confused. "What do you mean, Mr. Cooper?" he asked, forcing a smile. Mr. Cooper shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his eyes darting between Ryan, my parents, and me. "I didn't mean to bring this up during dinner," he said carefully, "but there's something unusual about the ownership documents for this property." My mother frowned. "Unusual? What's wrong with the house?" Mr. Cooper sighed. "When I was reviewing Ryan's financial records for his taxes, I noticed that the title deed doesn't list his name as the owner. It's under a holding company called Decor Investments." Ryan laughed nervously. Yeah, that's just a business arrangement. It's under my name through the company. Mr. Cooper hesitated. Actually, no, it's not. Decor Investments belongs entirely to someone named Daniel Carter. The room froze. Every pair of eyes turned toward me. I sat still, calm, my fingers resting on my glass. Ryan's face turned pale. That can't be right, he stammered. It's my house. I made the down payment. Mr. Cooper interrupted gently. The loan documents and payments all trace back to Decor. Legally, this house is owned by that company, which means Daniel is a legal owner. My father blinked in disbelief. Daniel? Our Daniel. I nodded slowly. Yes, Dad. I didn't want to embarrass anyone, but I think it's time the truth came out. Ryan's jaw tightened. You bought my house? I looked him in the eyes. No, Ryan. You bought your dream from me. The room went dead silent again. Only this time, it wasn't awkward. It was electric. My mother whispered, Daniel, you own this place? I smiled faintly. Among other things. Ryan looked like the walls were closing in, his perfect image shattering right in front of everyone. And that was just the beginning of his downfall. For a moment, no one spoke. You could almost hear the ticking of the clock echoing through the silence. My mother's hands trembled as she set down her glass. Daniel, when did all this happen? I took a slow breath and looked around the room, at the faces that once looked down on me. It started the day I left home. I said, quietly, when everyone thought I was wasting my time on crazy ideas, I was building something. My company, Decor Technologies, took years of sleepless nights, rejection, and sacrifice. But eventually it worked. Ryan stood frozen, his pride crumbling with every word. You're lying, he said, his voice shaking. You can't be that successful. You don't even wear suits, drive flashy cars. I interrupted with a faint smile. That's the difference between us, Ryan. You want to look successful. I wanted to be successful. Dad leaned forward, his voice low but trembling. Daniel, are you telling us that you own this company and this house under your name? I nodded. Yes. This property was part of an investment portfolio my company acquired 2 years ago. Ryan bought it without realizing who the actual owner was. Mom's eyes filled with tears. We had no idea, she whispered. Ryan's face turned red. So what now, huh? You'll humiliate me in front of everyone? Take the house. I looked at him calmly. No, Ryan, I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to remind you, arrogance and lies will always catch up. He sank back in his chair, silent, defeated. The same people who once praised him were now staring at me with disbelief and guilt. The truth had finally torn down the wall's illusion. The broke son they ignored was now the man holding everything together. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't a shadow of my brother. I was a storm that cleared the sky. Ryan slammed his hand on the table. You planned this, didn't you? He shouted. You wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone. I stayed calm, staring straight into his eyes. No, Ryan, you did that yourself, by pretending to be something you're not. He laughed bitterly. Oh, don't act like you're better than me. You were always jealous. You hated that I was Mom and Dad's favorite. I took a deep breath. You're right about one thing. You were their favorite. But I never hated you, Ryan. I just hated how small you made me feel. My mother's voice cracked. Daniel, please stop this fighting. We're family. I looked at her gently. Mom, I'm not fighting. I'm telling the truth, something this family avoided for years. Ryan's anger started to fade into guilt. You could have told me, he said quietly. You could have said you're doing well. I smiled sadly. Would you have listened? You were too busy looking down on me to ever look at me. Dad finally spoke up. His voice was calm but heavy. Son, I owe you an apology. I was wrong to judge you. I didn't see how hard you worked. For the first time in years, I saw sincerity in his eyes. It felt strange, like seeing a piece of warmth I'd long forgotten. Ryan looked at me again, his voice breaking. So what happens now? I stood up, straightened my jacket, and said quietly, nothing happens. You keep living here, rent-free. Just remember who gave you that roof. Then I walked out, leaving behind a house filled with stunned silence, and a brother who finally understood what true success looked like. The night after the confrontation, I couldn't sleep, not because I regretted what happened, but because the truth, once spoken, changes everything. For years, I dreamed of the moment my family would finally see me, not as the failure or the broke son, but as the man I truly was. And now that it had happened, it didn't feel like victory. It felt quiet. My phone buzzed with messages from relatives who had been at the dinner. We had no idea, Daniel. You've made us proud. But their words didn't fill the emptiness that had lived inside me for so long. A few days later, Mom called. Her voice was softer than usual. Daniel, your father and I have been talking. We're sorry. We didn't see how much pain we caused you. I paused before replying. It's okay, Mom. I'm not angry anymore. I just wanted to be respected, not compared. She started crying, and for the first time, I didn't hang up. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. Maybe it was about finally letting go. Ryan, on the other hand, went silent. He stopped posting on social media, stopped bragging, and started working. I heard from a mutual friend that he joined a startup, actually learning how to build something real. That made me smile. Maybe humiliation had taught him what pride never could. One evening, I drove past his house. The lights were on, laughter spilling through the windows. For once, it didn't sting. I had my peace. I didn't need applause, revenge, or recognition anymore. The truth had already done what was meant to do, set me free. And sometimes, silence after the storm is the sweetest sound of all. Looking back, I realize life has a strange way of teaching us what truly matters. For years, I chased approval. From my parents, from my brother, from everyone who doubted me. I thought success would mean finally being accepted. But when that day came, I learned something deeper. Respect earned in silence speaks louder than applause won through noise. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted truth. And the truth did what years of arguments never could. It opened their eyes. My parents began treating me differently after that night. Not with guilt, but with genuine respect. We started having real conversations, not comparisons. Ryan even visited me one afternoon. He looked tired, but honest. I'm trying to be better, he said. I simply smiled and replied, that's all I ever wanted. That moment meant more than any apology. Success isn't about wealth or titles. It's about peace. It's about knowing you built something with your own hands, even when no one believed in you. It's about standing tall when the world calls you small and proving your worth not through words, but through action. Now, when I pass by that house, his house, I no longer see the pain of my past. I see the proof that patience wins, that silence is power, and that even the most underestimated person can rewrite their story. Because sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming everything they said you couldn't be.